Howdy everyone, this is Abra, and I am back to give my 2 cents on the new Spider-Man movie, Spider-Man No Way Home. Warning, spoilers, spoilers, spoilers. I kind of have mixed feelings about this movie. I did enjoy it. Right now, it's currently sitting pretty on IMDb. The score is 94 from the critics and 99 audience score, which is pretty good. Normally, you don't really see the two agreeing anymore because, well, Rotten Tomatoes is a little bit sketchy. There are a few things that I liked about the movie and a few things that I didn't. I have to say up front, I'm not really a fan of Tom Holland's take on Spider-Man, or I should say Disney's take on Spider-Man. I don't like that whole frenetic, kind of goofy ADHD behavior. He does stupid things all the time. It's just idiotic in my opinion. I'm a huge fan of the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man series. The third movie I know is kind of the black sheep in the franchise. Andrew Garfield Spider-Man movies, I didn't enjoy them at all. They had some decent special effects, but I didn't like the direction Sony went with Spider-Man. So the movie picks up pretty much right after Far From Home. Everyone knows that Peter Parker is Spider-Man. Obviously, this creates a problem that puts his loved ones in danger and affects their lives negatively. So he tries to figure out a way to reverse everything and make his life sort of normal again. So he has the dual identities. So he goes to Doctor Strange to perform a spell. What could possibly go wrong? Everything. Neither one of them thought everything out. Spells are supposed to have consequences, and you would think a trained sorcerer would kind of understand the ramifications of twisting with the past and everything. But they cast a spell, everything goes wrong, separate parallel realities open up, and so it makes it possible for the other Spider-Man worlds or universes to interact with this one. They end up having the characters, the villains, and the Spider-Man characters from the previous movies. You have Tobey Maguire reprising his role as Spider-Man. It's kind of cool to see him get a little bit of redemption after what studio did to Sam Raimi and Tobey Maguire in Spider-Man 3, and then kind of shafted him and said, nope, we're not going to give you Spider-Man 4. We are going to just reboot the franchise altogether. They have Andrew Garfield, which I think he gets a little bit of redemption in this movie. Yeah, he's still a little bit geeky, nerdy, but he added a little more gravitas to his performance. He's having to deal with the death of Gwen Stacy. It was really neat to see Willem Dafoe reprise his role as Norman Osborn, and then you had Alfred Molina as Doc Ock. And then even, they had, I can't remember the actor's name, but they had the character Flint Marko, who was Sandman. They had Jamie Foxx. They did him good in this movie. I feel like he got ripped off playing Electro in the Andrew Garfield movies. It was kind of cool the way they did his costume in this universe. It was kind of more of a nod to the comic book version of Electro with that kind of electric aura around his head where it looked like sparks. It was kind of a weird thing that they did. Tom Holland's version of Spider-Man in Marvel's world, he wants to try to help all of the villains because they end up dying in the other movies. And so he doesn't want to send them back and just have them wiped out. So they all work together to try to save the villains so they can be sent back and not have pretty much a death sentence. The sad thing is I didn't really enjoy the movie until they brought in the old actors. And I don't think if it was strictly Tom Holland and that Spider-Man universe that Disney created, I don't think I would enjoy it as much. For me, I needed that nostalgia, that hit, that nostalgia high in order to enjoy the movie. And, I try to think about it honestly. Does that make it a good movie if they have to rely on the previous stories and previous actors to generate the hype? It's not really a new spin because Sony did it with Into the Spider-Verse. I know that was an animated film, but still they were bringing in different Spider-Man, the different Peter Parkers, and even Miles Morales. They were coming from all the different universes and coming together to fight the villains. I don't know, it kind of seems like Disney is creatively bankrupt. It's not just Disney, it's Hollywood in general. They are relying on nostalgia to bait the audience to come back to the theater. And I think maybe if people take off the rosy nostalgia glasses, they might have a similar opinion. That being said, it's not a bad movie. It's a Disney Marvel movie. You know what you're going to get at this point. Another aspect I didn't really like with the Tom Holland movies is Aunt May. And again, spoilers, she ends up dying in this movie as a result of Peter trying to help the various villains. The Green Goblin, played by Willem Dafoe, ends up killing Aunt May in this version of the Spider-Man universe. I love Marissa Tomei. I think she's a very classy, sexy, awesome lady, but for the role of Aunt May, it just never felt right to me. The previous versions of Aunt May were always kind of like an older grandmother, wise, old, kind. This version kind of seemed like Peter Parker's teenage unwed mother or something, So far in these 3 Disney Spider-Man movies, I haven't really felt an attachment to her. So when she did die, I didn't really feel sad about it. I felt bad for the Peter Parker Spider-Man character a little bit, but it didn't have the same weight as, say, Uncle Ben dying in the Tobey Maguire movie, or Gwen Stacy dying in the lackluster Andrew Garfield movies. The one thing that I do like is at the end, Peter realizes he does have to go back and make everyone forget that he's Spider-Man, and that has some very interesting consequences at the end of the movie. Some of it I'm not really sure how it works. It kind of has some weird time things to it, but because nobody knows who he is, his previous interactions with the Avengers changed. So he never got the special suits from Tony Stark, and his friends don't know him anymore because he never went to that school. So it's kind of interesting. He gets, at the end of the movie, he's getting his own place for the first time, and he's sort of putting all his stuff away, and you see in his bag that there was a How to Get Your GED book in there, and so it looks like he ended up having to get his GED. He didn't go to that high school with MJ and Ned, and because he doesn't have access to Tony Stark's tech anymore, he had to make his own suit, which I really liked. So that opens up some possibilities. I really, really disliked how he was getting all of the tech from Tony Stark. It felt more like he was Iron Man Jr. as opposed to Spider-Man. And it's nice to see them whittle all that away. And now he's just back to a young man that has these powers, and he's kind of on his own, but he knows he has the responsibility because he has his gift. He has a responsibility to help those who need him. So it'll be interesting to see where they go from here. They had a mid-trailer scene, and then they also had an after-credit scene. The mid-trailer scene, again, spoilers, had Tom Hardy in a little kind of cameo scene. He's at a bar, he had a cocktail, and he and Venom symbiote are kind of chatting and everything. And then right before they get poofed back to their reality, you see a little bit of the Venom goop was left behind in our world. So I guess they're going to try to cross over Tom Hardy into the Disney Spider-Man universe. And then also the after credit scene was actually the fallout from the multiverse kind of cracking open. And it seemed more like a little teaser trailer for the Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness. That was okay, but I'm more intrigued to see what happens with Spider-Man. I'd say that this is a watch if you like the Marvel movies. If you haven't seen them at all, this could be a bit confusing because they bring in a lot of elements from the previous movies and the Avenger movies. If you haven't really watched previous Marvel movies and the Avengers, but you've seen the Tobey Maguire or Andrew Garfield Spider-Man movies, you might get a kick out of seeing them in this movie. If you're just coming in uninitiated, it's kind of a hard follow if you're not familiar with previous Spider-Man movies or the previous Marvel movies. That's my 2 cents on Spider-Man No Way Home. Again, this is Abra. Thank you so much for watching, and take care.